Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 20 of the True North podcast. I'm your host, Benedict Rhodes. On this episode, I'm joined by Matt Ruta, member of the Canadian ski mountaineering team, who's looking to book his ticket to the sport's Olympic debut next winter in the mountains of Italy. We discuss how he got into the sport, how Canadians can qualify for the Olympics, some of his favorite Olympic memories, and more. Hope you enjoy our discussion. Matt, welcome to the True North podcast, and thank you for taking the time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Ski mountaineering is making its Olympic debut next year. For anyone who maybe isn't aware listening to the show, what is it and how would you describe ski mountaineering?
Yeah, ski mountaineering is it's essentially the competitive branch of backcountry skiing and ski touring. So, very old transportation method that's been distilled down into kind of its sport elements. And so you can kind of think of it as a combination of cross country or Nordic skiing and alpine skiing, where you kind of ski and run uphill on skis with removable skins attached that let you glide forward but stop you from sliding backwards. And then also on foot with your skis on your backpack, you use that to climb up a kind of a hill course or mountain course. And then you have bindings that can be converted to kind of downhill or alpine style bindings. And then you race back down.
And obviously, you're a passionate skier, but how did you first get involved in this sport at a point where you're competing internationally like this?
Yeah, it's sort of my second sport. I started out racing alpine and ski cross, and then after kind of leaving those sports in my early 20s, I guess I was already backcountry skiing for fun, and I had some friends that competed in ski mountaineering, and they encouraged me to get out, and sort of one thing, led to another. And within a couple of years, I was competing and doing reasonably well in Canadian level competitions. I kind of got drafted into my first ski mountaineering world champs in 2019. I sort of got the last spot on the Canadian team as an under 23 athlete and sort of really had my eyes open to the competitive level internationally, and since then I always kind of joke that it's just gotten completely out of hand, and now I kind of find myself racing all over the world. So it was a really natural progression from kind of a passion for skiing and mountain travel that grew into a competitive career.
And how similar do you think that path is to a lot of other athletes in the sport where they kind of maybe come from another branch of skiing into this particular sort of branch?
Yeah, it's common, I would say. The infrastructure in the Canadian sports system really supports Olympic sports, and ski mountaineering being introduced only this year means that there really hasn't been much of a development pipeline or a whole lot of athlete support that allows younger athletes into the sport. So you do tend to see people who've gotten their competitive background in other places, whether it's other endurance sports or other skiing sports, move into ski mountaineering later in their career. So I would say that's common in Canada, and then outside of Canada, especially in Europe, it is a sport where you'll see people starting from a very young age.
And as you mentioned, you've represented Canada at the World Championships, I think three times now. What is that experience like for you to wear the maple leaf and represent Canada on the world stage like that?
It's amazing. Like it's such a privilege to be able to do that. To have a sport organization believe in you because obviously there's a limited number of spots and there's a lot of deserving people. So I mean, that's a huge privilege on its own. And then to represent Canada, like many Canadians, I'm I guess a third generation Canadian. My family immigrated from elsewhere, and I really have gotten a lot from growing up Canadian, and so to be able to represent my country at that top level of competition is really cool.
And you were at the Olympic test event as well in Bormio. What was that event like, and how did that kind of come about?
Yeah. So the Olympic test event was a World Cup race. It was part of the World Cup season last year. So it was on the calendar right from the beginning, and we were able to send a full slate of athletes with some assistance from Sport Canada. So that was really nice to be able to do for kind of a smaller, newer sport. And the experience was really neat. You know, you could see all the preparation going in, and then Bormio is a place that I've spent time training in the past. It sort of feels like a second home in Europe to me when I'm over there. It's somewhere I always try to get back to, and sort of I know people there, and to see the excitement for the people that I know that are in the kind of the ski industry there, and all the preparations going on, and just to be a part of that energy was, yeah, it was really cool. It's exciting to see that progression for the sport, and it's also really neat to see all of these conversations that people have been having over the past 5 years, 10 years about Olympic entry turning into real concrete ideas that you can see and experience and be part of.
And Bormio and the Alps in general are kind of seen as one of the top places, obviously, to see in the world. Is there a different sort of aura maybe around competing in a place like that?
I think Bormio in particular is such a cool location for the Olympic race because not only is it, like you said, one of the sort of epicenters of skiing and ski culture, but it's surrounded by all these remnants from World War I, where people were doing ski mountaineering as, you know, like that was how they were waging war at the time. And there's all these forts that were accessed by skiing, and these crazy sort of battle lines. And that's where sort of the genesis of ski mountaineering as a sport is from these military patrols on skis. So it feels like a really cool sort of full circle venue that really embraces the history of the sport. I think it's a neat spot, you know, serendipitous. I would say that it ended up being the location for the debut.
And after that Olympic test event, you said on Instagram that maybe you have some mixed feelings about the shorter events compared to maybe the longer form events. So I was wondering maybe if you could expand on that and what are the major differences, I guess, between the two?
Totally. I guess this warrants some explanation. So in ski mountaineering, there's disciplines ranging from about a 2.5, 3 minute sprint event, right up to what's called grand course races that can be multiple days in length, like a cycling stage race. And to a lot of people, I'd say myself included, that come from a background of backcountry skiing and mountain travel, the longer events really represent sort of a nice a nice blend of competitive racing, but also those mountain travel aspects that make it feel, you know, natural and wild, and feel like you're part of your environment. And as is often the case with the Olympics, the events that are part of the Olympic Games are shorter events. We have the 2.5, 3 minute sprint event, and then a mixed relay event that's about 40 minutes long. With it's a mixed gender relay, and each athlete performs two roughly 10-minute legs, and it's all on prepared slopes. So it's groomed, and lots of track work. It's Both events are really phenomenal for TV, and they distill all of the elements that are required for competitive ski mountaineering, kind of a step further away from that sort of backcountry focus and the roots of the sport, which, like I said, is common in a lot of Olympic sports. For me, it's getting close to the point where um, it's hard to see those things that originally got me into the sport in the version that's making it to the Olympics. But at the same time, they are there. So that's the mixed feelings. That it is the highest level of competition, and we totally have all of those competitive elements. But there's just a little something missing from those long course races that speaks to my passion for the mountains and kind of being in the outdoors.
And I think there's a way to maybe find a middle ground, whether it's an individual 30 or 40 minute race or just some kind of middle ground between the two, or is it just the nature of the Olympics where it's made for TV, it's meant to be faster and sort of catch the eyeballs, I guess.
Yeah, I think down the road there's definitely a lot of space to have something like that. And as an athlete, we have to remember that this is the first inclusion in the Olympics. Like we can't we can't let perfect be the enemy of good. It's exciting to be part of the Olympics within the Canadian sports system. It's huge for the development of the sport. And down the road, I would love to see something like you said, like so. There's an individual event which is considered sort of the standard ski mountaineering race. They tend to be about an hour and a half long, and they really represent like a typical backcountry ski tour that a recreationalist might do in a day, but distilled into some very fast racing. And there's no reason why we couldn't see a version of that in the Olympics down the road, similar to what you have with the cross country mountain biking Olympic format. I think that would be a great middle ground, and I would love to see something like that in future Olympic years.
And let's go there next. Is qualification, I know, is quite tight in terms of athlete quotas, but how does that process work for you and other athletes around the world? And what will it take for you and the other Canadians to book your ticket to Milan?
Totally. The qualifying process, you're right, is it's extremely tight. There's 36 places in the games for men and women in ski mountaineering from all nations. So the reality is that there will be some top athletes who are not attending the Olympics. Each country can only have a maximum of two men and two women. That's the cap to make sure that there's multiple, there's as many countries represented as possible. And that means that in some races you see a particular venue is well suited to the Italians or the Swiss or something, and you might see a podium sweep, and there one of those athletes couldn't go to the Olympics under this qualifying format. So it's extremely tight. In the case of Canada, we're hoping to send athletes, and we're in a place to do that right now. So it comes down to a qualifying period that started last November and ends this December, and it includes every World Cup race from the beginning to the end of that qualifying period. There's one race left, and right now Canada is hanging on to a spot to qualify places in the games by 1 point out of several hundred. So it's very, very tight. So right now it really comes down to our performance as a team at the first World Cup of the year in Utah in Solitude.
And where do you think Canada's strengths lie? I guess is it the shorter sort of sprint events like Kylie Toth is the other one on the national team. How do you guys maybe compare it individually compared to in the mixed team event?
Yeah, I would say that Canada has some great athletes and great performances across all of the disciplines. Um, I wouldn't say that we're stronger in one area than others necessarily, but under the current qualifying structure, our best bet is to go through the mixed relay. We do have some incredibly strong athletes in the mixed relay. Aaron Robson and Emma Cook-Clark, in particular, are really, really strong, and they're a great team for us in those mixed relay events. Um, so that's our best bet Olympic wise in terms of all the disciplines. Yeah, we have athletes that are phenomenal in each of them. So there's no particular discipline that I would say Canadians excel in over another.
And I know this is a sport that's obviously quite popular in the Alps for all the reasons you mentioned before. That's obviously why they're hosting it. But as far as I know, it hasn't been confirmed for 2030 yet. What is your kind of sense on its future inclusion and maybe how a successful first Olympics can potentially set the stage, I guess, for 2030 and beyond as well?
Yeah, I mean that's well beyond my pay grade, thankfully. Dealing with the politics of the IOC and event inclusions, I think there's a lot of excitement among the organizers of the 2030 games for the sport, and that's huge. It's really growing in North America, and so I think there's a good chance that we'll see it. But it's hard to say. Like it comes down to so many factors outside of sport that I wouldn't feel comfortable making a prediction one way or another. But I would say that a successful first inclusion will go a long way. If it's an exciting sport for people to watch, if people are tuning in, if the competition, the level is high and all that stuff, then that's going to go a long way, surely.
And personally, do you have any favorite memories of watching the Olympics, whether it's the winter or the summer games growing up? Are there any sort of athletes or games that stand out to you?
Oh man, yeah, I have tons of Olympic memories. I come from a family of athletes. My mom ski raced on the Ontario provincial team, which is quite good, and was also a great triathlete later in life. And dad was big into cycling, and yeah, no, it's um, something that's always been part of my life. I can remember sort of rolling out the TV to watch the Olympics during school, the Winter Olympics growing up, the hockey games. The golden goal was on TV in my classroom when I was growing up, and there were a lot of athletes who I grew up watching who I later had a chance to meet or to compete with, and that's really special as well. So now a lot of those memories from my youth, from my childhood, have been rolled into knowledge of these people because they've stuck around the sports system as coaches, or their careers overlapped with mine and that kind of thing. So I would say that yeah, the Olympics has always very much been a part of my experience in sport.
And how big of opportunity is there now in 2026 and beyond, where this sport will be at the Olympics to maybe inspire sort of a growth, I guess, in the sport where it goes from a sport there. I think the organization Ski Mountaineering Canada only started in 2020, I believe, and how much can this sort of maybe boost their platform to grow in the future as well?
Yeah, I hope it'll be a huge opportunity to inspire people. One of the beautiful things about ski mountaineering is it's a sport that leverages our landscapes here in Canada. And it's a skill set that's a really beautiful way to experience Canadian mountains and Canadian winter. And so I think it's a really natural fit. And I hope that seeing it in the Olympics will inspire another generation to yeah, find skiing and find mountain travel as an outlet for them in sport, and they'll see a path for themselves.
And you mentioned Canada's obviously a winter nation. We thrive in winter sports here in Canada, but obviously in some parts of the country it can be quite hot in the summer as well. I see you have the bikes behind you there. What does your summer training look like, and what have you been up to this summer? I guess just to sort of pass the time between seasons, but also keep training.
Yeah, summer's a great time to get the feet out of the ski boots and take a little bit of a break. I do lots of trail running and cycling, either mountain biking or on the road to train. Those are sort of my main summer modalities for training. And then some time in the gym to work on the strength, work on the power, and fill in some of the gaps from a busy competition season in the winter. So I really try and use it as a break from some of those movement patterns and a chance to reset, um, kind of rebuild some of my weaknesses and show up strong for the winter season because we get on snow quite early.
And on this show, we often end the show with a quick rapid fire round. Are you down for 5 quick questions?
Go for it.
Awesome. First off, what's the coolest place you've traveled to because of your sport?
Coolest place I've traveled to. Um, I always love traveling to Italy. Like I said, it almost feels like a second home in the Alps to me now. And last year we raced in Azerbaijan, which is a place that I never ever would have visited outside of sports. So that was a pretty neat experience.
What's one place on your bucket list that you've never traveled to?
Oh, um, I have yet to travel to Asia. Um, I guess Azerbaijan almost counts. It's right on the edge, but I hope that we get a chance to compete in some of the winter sports countries in Asia going forward. That'd be pretty cool.
What's your favorite show or movie of all time,
Favorite show or movie? Oh boy.
or one of each?
You know what? I'm kind of a cartoons guy. I'm a big Futurama fan, so we'll put Futurama down.
Who's your favorite Canadian athlete of all time?
Another tough one. This is a really tough one because I know so many great Canadian athletes. So I don't want to leave anybody out here. My favorite Canadian athlete of all time. It's got to be my first high level ski coach, Stanley Hare. Well, to this day, the best coach I've ever encountered, and he's now coaching the national ski cross team. So shout out to Stanley, great athlete, and even better coach.
And finally, if you could try any sport you've never tried before, what would it be?
I've always been pretty fascinated by like bike racing. I think that not that I haven't raced on a bike before, but having the chance to be part of like a real top level peloton without getting dropped would be pretty cool.
Man, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Where can people follow you and your adventures?
Yeah, you can find me on social media. Just if you search for my name, Matt Ruta, and I do a little bit of writing on my own website, mattruta.com, about more kind of adventurous skiing and backcountry skiing. So if you're into that, you're welcome to check it out as well.
So, thanks, man. I appreciate the time and all the best going forward.
Thanks so much, Benedict. This has been really fun.
Thanks again to Matt for joining the show. Make sure you drop him a follow on social media. If you want to be the first person to listen to future episodes of the show and read all of our written content, subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts and at truenorthsports.substack.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at truenorth_sport and on Instagram at truenorthsport. I've been your host, Benedict Rhodes. Thanks so much for listening.